This morning's gospel, very famous gospel reading, the story of the widow's mite. The widow's mite is a story that should challenge us greatly. It's not just a story about giving money, but one that asks, what is our faith about? Why do we claim to be Catholic? I've often quoted from this pulpit Father, now Bishop Robert Barron, who said in the Catholicism series that if we believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that changes everything. Because if he is who he says he is, the bishop says, we owe our lives to him. God desires a loving relationship with each of us, a desire to be intimately involved in our daily lives, to be with us in times of great joy and in times of struggle. Pope Francis emphasized the comprehensive element of faith in his encyclical this past summer. He reminded us that faith isn't about saying prayers each day. It isn't about going to Mass. It isn't about being a good person. It isn't about caring for the environment or our resources and wealth. Faith isn't about respecting other people. It isn't about caring for our loved ones, nor about caring for the poor and neglected. No, our faith is not about any one of these things. It is about all of those things. Being a disciple of Christ is about a total commitment to Jesus Christ, to living his gospel and sharing his message and his love with all those made in the image and likeness of God. This commitment is something that we don't do on our own. This past Tuesday, the first reading at Mass was from Paul's letter to the Romans, where the saint writes, quote, "We, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually parts of one another. Since we have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us exercise them." Close quote. St. Paul is saying in Romans that faith cannot grow on its own. It requires others because its foundation is love. We cannot love by ourselves. We need other people. In addition, each member of our family of faith, like all families, have different gifts and talents. We cannot thrive spiritually by cutting ourselves off from these gifts and talents. St. Paul's words in his letter to the Romans are an indicator of why the church has survived all these years. It isn't a human institution, although it has human elements. The church's foundation is love itself, reminding us that we are relational beings. The biggest challenge to the church in the 21st century isn't threats by the culture. It is the fact that most of her members are trying to live faith by themselves. Think about that for just a moment. Almost 2,000 years ago, Christians were being served as appetizers to the lions. Yet it didn't destroy the church. In fact, the church grew by leaps and bounds. And this was due to the fact that the people of God, all the baptized, recognized the importance of coming together for Mass, to pray for one another and with one another, to love and support one another, and to share the love of Jesus Christ with all others, including those who are seeking to destroy them. As we gather here this morning, we are well aware of the challenges facing our parish and our church. If you look around, you might discover that we have one or two open seats in the church this morning. At the doorways of the church we're releasing our annual report that shows lots of wonderful things happen at St. John's, but also shows some real financial challenges facing us. There's also a concern that's been expressed to myself and members of the Finance and Pastoral Council about what the soon to be experienced loss of bingo, the eighth sacrament of the Catholic Church, will mean to the future of our parish, to our financial health. And in this week's newsletter contains an announcement of a new assessment on the parish by the diocese to help fund the central administration of the diocese. These are very real concerns that cannot be ignored. But there are also challenges that have been mounting for many years at the diocesan level, as well as here in our own parish of St. John the Evangelist. Problems that can no longer be put off. We need to deal with them now. A year ago, we began a parish convocation, a process of identifying the challenges and needs of our community. It involved a parish-wide survey, a series of gathered sessions to discuss these issues and begin brainstorming solutions. It has involved many conversations with parishioners and non-parishioners of all ages. The last 2 weeks I've had conversations with our teens in our confirmation programs, with the fifth graders in my faith formation class on Tuesdays, and many others. Both the finance and pastoral councils have been involved in these conversations, and soon we will be releasing a pastoral plan detailing what we as a parish will be doing to address these issues facing us. Here are some highlights. We need to live true to our identity as a family and less as looking like a business. Our parishes in 2015 are structured largely as they were since the mid-20th century. A model that may have worked then, but certainly doesn't now. Catholicism on Cape Cod started with circuit rider priests who went from parish to parish on the Cape to offer the sacraments and to preach. And yet, despite that, despite not having the same structures that we have today, these parishes continued to grow. We have a very gifted and talented staff here at St. John the Evangelist. So we're going to be restructuring things a bit so that their gifts and talents may be put to use in the caring of the needs of the people of God at St. John the Evangelist, and not to fulfill an expectation of how a parish should be staffed. We are continuing to transition our parish office to a welcome center. The center, when it's fully set up, will be there to welcome anyone who walks in the door of our parish, to provide information and resources that they may be seeking, to provide an opportunity for friends to gather for no particular reason. Yes, there will be business that has to be done and will be done, but we have to do that in our own families, don't we? We have to pay the bills and all that. Yet we still continue to look like families at home and not as a business. Well, we have to do the same thing here. The business will no longer be what defines us. Our faith formation program is about to experience a total 180-degree turn. Our church teaches that the parents are the primary teachers of faith to their children, that the faith is most effectively and properly learned and inculcated when it's part of a family's life. If you think about that, many of our older parishioners here can recall at the dinner table being quizzed by their parents on questions of the faith, maybe from the Baltimore Catechism or other sources. We need to get back to that family dynamic of teaching the faith to our children. Faith formation in the parish is only meant to be an additional resource for families in their work as the primary catechists. Over the years in our church, faith formation in the parishes has taken over that role, a task that, despite its creativity and content, has failed to teach and pass on the faith. I've met with Deborah and Crystal, and they've begun the work of redesigning our faith formation program so that it better reflects what we as Catholics believe. I've instructed the pastoral care staff to leave the office. Certainly there are times that we'll need to meet with people in a private setting. However, the office cannot become a haven or a shelter from the community. We need to get out there, into the community, into the neighborhoods, into the lives of our parishioners. In doing so, we can better listen to your needs, to your concerns, and engage in ways that are meaningful and relevant to your lives. It only took me a couple of years in campus ministry to discover that the greatest challenge in reaching the students was I was providing answers to questions they weren't asking, and the questions that they were asking remained unanswered. I think that is true in parish ministry as well, and that needs to change and will change starting today. There is another big change. It's not just going to be myself and the staff. A big change affecting all of us who make up St. John the Evangelist Parish. We need to live our identity as children of God, as members of the family of faith 24/7. Like the widow in today's gospel, all of us need to help one another live a total commitment to Jesus Christ within the vocations we've been called to live. We will begin the process of incorporating Christian stewardship as a way of life here in our parish. There's some more information about what stewardship is about in this week's newsletter. Basically, it means intentionally choosing to become a disciple of Jesus Christ. seeking ways we can show our gratitude to God through our service to others, volunteering in the life of the parish, or our financial contribution to the parish, or in our prayer and worship as a family of faith. It'll take us some time to make this transition to stewardship. But when this transition is complete, we'll be a parish that provides opportunities for faith development for parishioners of all ages and non-parishioners alike. We'll be found celebrating faith, not just here at 841 Shore Road, but in our neighborhoods and communities. And perhaps the greatest difference, a noticeable difference, particularly in our American Catholic culture, we'll get ourselves down to just one collection. 2019 is our 50th anniversary as a parish. This is a very exciting time for our family of faith here at St. John the Evangelist, indeed within our Roman Catholic Church in the world. There's a lot of energy and a lot of hope. These remaining years, heading into our 50th, are a time of transition that will build a strong foundation for our next 50. A foundation that will require all of us to work together to build.